everyone. This is Soren, Black Belt Mindset and Business Coach. I'm very fortunate today to have Dr. Jung Wang. He's a coach as well as a personal mastery author, a best-selling author of Personal Mastery. So welcome, Jung Wang. Tell us a bit about your background, what led you to doing what you're doing now.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much, Raj, for this invitation. I'm so delighted to be here in front of you and your listeners here. So I now, as a coach and also author, as you said, of the book Personal Mastery, and I've basically been going through a career that was in the pharmaceutical industry over 25 years. I finished my postgraduate degree, my PhD in chemistry. Before that, I had done some studies as well as in chemistry. I was in the year in France, and I just felt I wanted to do something to help be involved with medicine and helping people to get better, help develop medicines, make medicines available to people in the developing world, all around the world. And so that's why, so in a way, I was really invested into that, and it led me to a lot of traveling, going to meet with ministries of health to resolve certain challenges, help make medicines available, whether through registrations and development. And as I was always wanting to better myself, get better in terms of how I was showing up, how I led myself, how I expressed myself, confidence, all these things, learning certain skills, I realized as well that this was something that I really enjoyed, and it showed in the way I shared these insights I was learning with people. And really that was something that I felt, hang on, this is something I really love doing, and people were giving me that feedback. And lots of challenges along the way in my sort of career itself, and I felt, well, I've got something to share here. I wanted something to impart in other people, and hence I left the pharmaceutical industry about almost 3 years ago now, and to become a coach. So I made a big jump, and really to help people to progress in their careers, and it's also well in getting better at the way they live their life, always living their life with more intention and purpose. And that's really led me here, to the person I am, and here I am speaking to you, Raj.
Interesting. I've had a sort of pharmaceutical background as well in sales management and training, and
Yes.
in that perspective, medicines is there to try and help people's well-being. And now, as mindset coaches and being the author of Personal Mastery, we're talking about how to coach individuals either in careers or in other aspects of their life. So tell me about that journey in terms of the coaching sphere.
Yeah. So from a number of different ways of approaching this, one way I'd say is that, if you're thinking about into how I support people in that coaching, so it's a lot of it's from my experiences and perspectives. For example, how to, I think one is realization that sometimes we don't have to do it by ourselves, on our own. There's always a opportunity to ask people for help, but that always means being vulnerable, recognizing that there's something not quite working well here, or something that could work a lot better. I need some help, and asking people. And I think one of the things I learned was actually asking somebody to be my mentor, somewhere within my career, and it really meant getting over the fear of being rejected, right? And I am so glad that person agreed. So they recognized that I approached them, and that was something. So I got a lot of value from that. I think all along that's been the main thing of asking for help, and I think that's key to coaching in a way, is that it's asking for help and then giving that help in a way that helps the person along the journey. And it's not making decisions for them, but it's helping them to be able to make their own decisions. Always having a view as to which direction they want to go, at least in terms of their next steps. I think that's an incredibly powerful thing, and that's certainly something that has helped me. Even right now, I have my own coaches for different things, and it continues to empower me and also keeps me accountable, keeps me where I am. I think of I could have called it what I do in terms of what I help people with. I could have called it self-leadership, which essentially a lot of it is. But I call it personal mastery because it's not just about being better at what we do, but always having a sense of where we're going and what meaning we get from what we do. Because how often is it that people work very hard, all the hours there are available in the day, and then they realize, hang on, where's this going to? What's this all about? Why is this? Why not happy? Why don't I feel fulfilled? And I think it's always having that sense of meaning that we can imbue, whether you attach a meaning to it or you find some sort of sense of meaning externally to make the life that you lead involving work and everything that you do that much more meaningful. Because we as human beings are not machines, right? We're not just built just to perform and do our best and everything like that. We always need a sense of where we're headed and a sense of meaning, because we are, after all, meaning-making beings. That's what.
Yeah, that's interesting, because you talked about having a mentor earlier in your life. Coach or a sensei is important, and in the coaching world, coaches should have their own coaches as well. And you talk about purpose and meaning. I think a lot of people sort of lose their way, and we're getting so busy, stressed out, all the challenges of personal life, work, business. And this book you created, Personal Mastery, A Leader's Guide to Finding Meaning and Fulfillment in the Modern World. How's that resonating out there?
Yeah, I'm actually delighted with how the book has been performing since it got launched at the end of May. It's people who there's people who are reading it, picking it up and reading. It needs something that's not just about helping them to, let's say, perform better in what they do, right? Be it have a bit more confidence, be it being able to manage themselves better and how they show up. But it's so much more about what more there is, what makes it worthwhile in the end. And it's a very holistic thing, right? Without getting into any sort of woo-woo things, it's about integrating everything together. Yeah, I think it's the feedback I've been getting has been very positive. I'm delighted to that the book reached Amazon bestseller list in two categories, including career development and personal progression, personal development. So I'm really excited about that. I think people are reading it because they think they're not just looking for a book just to be able to do something better and do more of it, but it's like, well, I guess it's tapping into more of the why, what makes it worthwhile. And so that all as an important effect in enhancing how we as human beings live on this planet, how we can be better for each other and for ourselves. I think that's been really powerful. People have clearly taken different aspects of it, but I think as well, I myself have keep taking something from it too, because I find myself reading this book because it's not just applicable for the readers out there, but it also continues to be applicable to me. So there's something I'm always reading to rediscover something or emphasize or let's say go deeper into something that's very relevant to me in my experience at the moment. So I think that perhaps plays into that integrity aspect. It's not just good. I recommend good for other people who are, let's say, want to have that bit of a boost or a bit of support in going through their lives and work, but also it's very personal to me and it helps me too.
Brilliant. I mean, I've got a copy of your book here at the moment, so I'm enjoying reading it. Yeah, and I think we did a book exchange, didn't we?
Yes, we did. I think I've got yours somewhere here.
Yeah, there you go.
It is. It's my
mindset, life and business.
I started reading it too.
Personal mastery. Yeah, I'll do a review for you. So congratulations on your.
Thank you.
Yeah, so congratulations on your best-selling list twice over. And it's good.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
And I think as well, just to add in as well, there's clearly some one of the reasons why we connected as well is we both have a connection through the martial arts. You do your martial arts. You've accomplished, I think, Aikido and various things. Myself, I'm, being a practitioner of Tai Chi and Tai Chi Chuan and Xingyi, Tai Chi for like more than 20 years or so, not just as a relaxation, but as a combat martial art, with involving weapons and combat and things. And that's been really key as well in terms of why that plays into the work. It plays into life, I think, and I know you've described it a lot in your book. There's the mindset and things like discipline, having structures in place, having always that starting from that place of intention, and how you execute, how you show. And doesn't mean we're perfect, by no means, but it's always we're work in progress, always about continuous improvement. You talk about Kaizen, for example, which is all about always that continuous improvement and that striving to do so. So the work never finishes, and that is an important aspect, I think, to the work that I do, and I think as well, clearly the work that you do for your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. There's common themes in the work that we do in terms of using some of the martial art perspective from your Tai Chi and other martial arts, my traditional Jiu-Jitsu, Kido, and more recently Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Now, not everyone is into physical activity.
Yes.
Having said that, how important is physical activity in our well-being and our mindset?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important. I think it's also the most accessible thing we can always do for ourselves to boost ourselves, to make us feel better, so we can perform better. On a very superficial basis, it could even just be, just to get the blood going. If you're able to increase the amount of oxygen going to your brain, then it's good for you to be able to perform better with better mental focus and presence. So there's that aspect to it, and I think general blood circulation is good for the body, right? So all these things are incredibly important. I think it's just a very accessible thing we can do. Everyone doesn't have to go to a gym every day. It could even just be go for a walk, right? Go for a brisk walk somewhere for 15, 20 minutes or something. That is already an aspect of physical activity everyone pretty much could do. So I think that is a very important aspect of being helping ourselves be better selves.
Yes, I very much agree with you. Any form of physical activity, whether it's simple walking, is vitally important, because it's sort of getting out into nature, making sure that you're grounded, breathing in those conditions in the right way. And yet people, this new modern era over the last 50 years or so, we're sat behind our desks. So how do we overcome that inertia to be a bit more physical, or do what we can within our limitations to help with our mindset and our personal mastery? What would you say to that?
Yeah, I'd say as always, I think to be okay with the fact that sometimes we do forget things, or we do forget the importance of doing something, no matter how good it is for you. If I take an example, let's say every morning recently I've been doing every morning 70 push-ups all in one go, and that hasn't been something I started off doing from a while ago. It's just I've been building up, and there are times when I think I get up in the morning and I'm thinking, I sometimes the question comes, I'd rather not be doing this, or I'd rather maybe there's something else I can do, or I just forgo it and no one will notice. But I realized then, actually, if I let myself off, okay, there can be days when I do that, but if I do it more days than when I don't do it, that's over time, because I've built a habit, a system, a little reminder me that this is, do it, just get it over with, it'll be done, and you feel better at the end of it. I think that always helps in terms of getting that, overcoming those little things. So basically, in the answer, I think it's having building a little habit and doing little bits at a time, a bit of growth, but also being compassionate to ourselves that we're not robots. We do need time to sometimes to do other things, or we need to let ourselves a little bit, because that's all part of being human. So
Indeed.
I think it starts from
Yeah.
intention and then implementation, but then also being compassionate to ourselves, that forgiving that actually we do slip up, but that's fine. Overall, if we keep doing what we can to grow when we can, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, because we've fallen into this trap. We become human doings rather than
Yes,
human beings.
yes, absolutely.
And then we're not kind to our bodies or our minds. So there's a lot of negativity out there, and the challenge we're
Yeah.
facing. Now, one of the chapters in your book, a very important chapter, is on self-awareness,
Yes.
and probably around mindfulness as well. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, very important. It's the reason why I sort of get this maybe the first of my pillars within my methodology, my own personal mastery methodology. In my diagram, which is a circular diagram, I have the self-awareness as its core, it's essentially as a starting point, but doesn't mean that once you've started there, you leave it. It's always there. You always need it. You always come back to it. And I think of this is that to start anything in any endeavor, will it be to be better or to get to know ourselves better, we always to start, well, what's happening right now? And that's the question. And that forces us to be very present and come to a reality as to what we're thinking, what we're feeling, the words that we say to ourselves and to other people, and also what are the things that we end up doing, that we're doing to ourselves and to other people. I think the self-awareness has those components of where we are right now. It's almost like a sense check, measuring what we're doing. So it's like looking at, if you're driving a car, you've got the dashboard or the instruments, telling your speed, telling your, what sort of, how many revs in your engine are going, and how much petrol or how much electricity you've got in your batteries, whatever it is. There's always like a sensing, well, what's my status right now? I think once we know, well, in a way we are better understanding of where we are right now, then we know, well, then it's a case, well, where do we need to go? Where do we want to go? And be able to plan accordingly what our next steps are. So certainly self-awareness is incredibly key. And certainly it's very key within in a martial arts standpoint, right? Whether you're, you're in the middle of a sparring bout with somebody, or you're just trying to recover, you're always having a sense of what's happening. What am I feeling right now? What's going through my mind? All these things. So continue that self-inquiry is very key to the self-awareness, but always to do it without judgment, right? Without sort of saying, oh, that should be this or whatever. It's just like, well, what's just measuring, just sensing. That's
Yeah,
important.
I mean, human beings have this natural ability to sense things that are going on within our bodies and around us.
Yeah.
Yet we have so much thoughts, thousands of thoughts going through our heads, whether positive or negative. How do we sort of, use self-awareness to silence some of that so we can actually be more ready, be more aware?
Yeah. It's a good question. I think we perhaps want to start off thinking, well, how I want to silence that thought, or if it's particularly maybe an unattractive thought or a very negative thought, we want to silence it. But you mentioned the word mindfulness in a way, and mindfulness often is about, well, it's more of acknowledging rather than trying to push something away. And as much as we'd like to push something away, what happens, of course, if we push it away, effectively engaging with something, which means that thing becomes bigger, right? It's whatever we engage with, like where your attention goes, the energy, the thing grows, right? So it's more about noticing it and then just letting it go, but then focus on the things that are like, well, noticing first of all is the most important thing, and then sort of realize what things are perhaps better for you, and those things which don't help you. So I think it's about that, more of like watching things go, more importantly. Then you'll be able to sort of act make a decision and say, okay, knowing this, I can do this. But it's like giving yourself that bit of space, that pause between what the thought and then what you actually do.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, some people talk about silencing some of these thoughts, and a lot of the time you can't do that. You have to manage them. You have to sort of filter them in some way, or maybe just give it a different meaning, a different perspective. Now, when we talk about self-management, one of the important topics for our personal growth, and also in your book, people aren't that great sometimes at self-management. We start a habit, we want to lose weight, then New Year's resolution, all of a sudden that disappears quite quickly. Or we have goals and aspirations that some of us keep, don't keep. So what's the secret of self-management, would you say?
I think the secret, here's a good question. I'd say the secret, first of all, is, well, put it this way, how often is it that someone says they do something and it's fantastic for their health, with it to help them lose weight or help them to become stronger, build muscles or whatever it is, and you think, yeah, I'll do that, and then it doesn't work for you. I think the secret really is finding out what works for you, right? So that's something that works for you. So, and I think that's why I don't, my pillars, in a way, they're sort of in sequence. So it doesn't start with, oh, you start with self-management and then you work from there. As important as it is, it all starts, I think, from self-awareness. So you're able to measure or sense what's happening, and then that leads then to better self-knowledge. So knowledge about yourself, what is it that, I don't know, you're like, if you're thinking about, say, losing weight, for example, as a simple example, that you would then be thinking, well, what's my weight now? What's my general pattern in terms of my weight going up and down? What sort of foods that I know that when I eat are good for my weight loss, and others that aren't so good? What are my general eating patterns? That type of thing. What am I generally eating? Who's doing the cooking or whatever? Am I eating out? All these things are part of the knowledge base, and then from that, it's a case of then determining, well, what strategies are gonna work to help me achieve what I want to, be it to lose weight. Then okay, it could be something like, say, eat cook more food at home that's healthy rather than go out. But that may not be so applicable to someone who says, well, I already eat at home a lot and cook my own food that's healthy. Then what? So basically, my main point is, a secret, I think, is having this thing to, let's say, a secret, if you like, to self-management, is crafting, determining, designing your own strategies that work for you based upon a knowledge and awareness of you as an individual. Because how often people say, well, this works for me, and this work, and the implication is that what works for them is going to work for you. But I don't think that it's as straightforward as that.
Yeah, because we all have a personal journey. It's knowing thyself. So how do you keep motivated when we're facing these challenges, and how do we keep the resilience going?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think ultimately it's about finding, well, where do we have to remind ourselves, or what's the point of doing this? And it's like having one eye looking like occasionally towards where we want to be, when to go towards. Like, say, I want to be, for me, for example, if I think of, I want to be a coach who really has an impact to help somebody really get to somewhere where they hadn't dreamt was possible for themselves, be it in terms of their career, in terms of their responsibilities, in terms of the person that they are for their communities or their family, etc. And I think, in a way, it's about, well, I know that if, for example, if I do something that I find challenging, but I know that that experience of doing that challenging thing is going to help me become that better person who's more, let's say, loving, more forgiving, more helpful for other people, then it's a continue reminding us of where we want to be, is as a way that helps build our resilience. Because I think the motivation and resilience are sort of both sides of the same coin, in a way. You can be very motivated, but if you have a lot of things that are pulling you back, then it doesn't matter how strong your motivation. If something's pulling you back, it's not going to work so well. So it's almost like remove the resilience being able to remove those stops and think, well, where am I going? That's really going to give you a sense of better motivation to pull you to where you want to be. So I hope that answers your question. I mean, it's everything is very interlinked, and I think there's this aspect of keeping reminded of what's the point, what's the why here, that really pulls you forward to get over those little times, those when it's really hard. There's another aspect as well, is that I think we often learn things more when things get tough and things get really difficult. If you think of, maybe you may think back to your own experiences where, things have been really easy compared to then when times really were hard, things really sucked, in terms of it was horrible, it's hard, it really we went to a very personal low. You probably find that, when did you learn most? The things when it went easy or when it went hard? And I think we are typically, as human beings, I think we learn more when things are really hard.
Would you say that crisis is an opportunity? Is that something, I think, from your cultural background, is that something that you still agree with? Because they say that,
Yeah. When you mention crisis, I think of the Chinese characters. You probably heard it as well. And in Mandarin Chinese, it's ji hui, right? So ji means like an opportunity. So ji, so or gi in Cantonese, it's been danger, and then there's opportunity. So there's something big is happening, like a big sort of change in some way, but and I think it comes down to the mindset aspect. I've talked about realistic optimism and growth mindset, and I think it's that when things will dive, a lot of people maybe with a fixed mindset will think, "Oh no, this is it. Everything's gonna go to disaster and everything." Whereas the person who has more of a growth mindset and a more realistic mindset, realistic optimism thinking, was be saying, "Oh, what's the one thing I can do right now to change what happens next? To have a likelihood of changing where I am going to be next." Because there's like the analogy I gave in the book is like, there's a poem which says, when the wind changes, the pessimist will complain, the optimist will say, "Don't worry, it will change back to what it was," and the realistic optimist will say, "We'll just adjust the sails," right? So the realistic optimist is always the person, I think, is what we should try to be, in that they always try and do what's in their control in the moment to affect basically what happens next, as opposed to being passive and just like either complaining or saying, "Don't worry, it'll be fine." Those are too passive and don't really do anything. I think they're more into a fixed mindset. I'm more very much about the growth mindset. I'm sure you are as well. So it's about what can we do for ourselves in that moment.
Indeed.
In the moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there a personal story you could share with us about resilience, or anything else in particular that you think would help the audience?
Yeah, sure. One of my experiences early on in my corporate career I learned a lot from it. I was in basically the corporate, in our company town hall meeting, attended where the CEO was presenting the year's results, and it was on-site meeting. I mean, this was way back before we had online and Zoom and everything like that. And about 2,000 people on site. So I was like in the town hall there, and I noticed that as the CEO presented, he didn't talk anything about the part of the company that I worked in, which was the vaccines part of the business, about a third of the company, right? So a third is quite a substantial amount of the company, if you say, put it that way. And so when it came down to time to questions, my arm went up, right? And I was given the microphone, right? Quite scary in a way, because it's a big moment, right? I'm getting to ask a question to the CEO. My boss, my manager, was right behind me, and she was like, I sensed that she was probably feeling a bit nervous, right? Because all the attention was drawn to to me, right? And in our direction. And I asked the question, and I noticed that, great presentation and great to see the company is doing well, but I noticed you didn't mention anything to do with this part of the business, the vaccines business. Would you like to tell us a bit more about how that business is going? And what the CEO said to me next from the stage, I will never forget. He said, I only talked about the products that did well for the company commercially, right? Gave us good revenue for the company. And the vaccines weren't in that category. So quite frankly, Jung, you have got to work harder. That's what he said. Everyone laughed. Right? 2,000 people. I don't know what that sounds, but it's a lot of people who are laughing at the same time at my expense, just because the CEO had cracked a joke at my expense, just for my question. And my question was not in any way a bad question. It was a genuine question. I wanted to genuinely find out. I engaged with what he was saying, and this came as a shock, as you imagine. I felt I'd been kicked in the stomach, poked in the solar plexus. I felt winded. I didn't know. I was shaking. Felt under so much stress. I couldn't believe it. I just in disbelief. I was like, felt about to collapse, and it almost felt like I was about to crumble. And so what seemed like ages, you think about all these people laughing and everything. There's that moment and that little voice that came to me and said, like, imagine this is you still got the microphone. I was still holding on to the microphone. And it was like those comeback moments. I stood straight. I looked at the CEO in the eye and I said, that may be so. There are lots of challenges that our company faces in that area, manufacturing capacity, all these things. But there's a lot of great work that this part of the company does in terms of global health initiatives, vaccination programs, helping for public health initiatives around the world, particularly in the more developing countries in the world. And that's when he relented and started talking a bit more about it, how he'd met with Bill and Melinda Gates, who obviously their vaccination funding initiatives and that sort of stuff. And then he moved on. And I'm so glad to this day that I said something, because I don't know if there was any alternative. And I think of that as being a real personal experience of where resilience came in, because I was pushed into a place where if I didn't say anything, if I didn't do anything, I would have just crumpled down. I would have been completely defeated. I wouldn't be here speaking to you. And there's a funny thing that comes to this, because afterwards, not any mention was ever made of this event. Not from my peers, not from my colleagues, not even from my manager, who recall I was described as stood behind me. And 2 weeks later, I still was in the job. I hadn't been fired. I thought I was going to get fired before when I asked that question on the spot, but I didn't. And I looked up from, basically I was working at the open plan office, and who was coming up was across in front of me. It was the CEO. And when I looked up, he caught my eye just like that. He just saw me. I saw him, and I nodded at him. He nodded back at me. So he clearly remembered who I was, and there's no doubt I knew who he was. And then he moved on. And that little bit of that nod, mutual nod, was a recognition, acknowledgement. Whatever he said, I mean, you can argue whether it's good or bad, but in a way, it taught me a very important lesson, that this was a story for me of resilience that I learned that I didn't know I had, and then from that point onwards, I always made a point of whatever company that I worked within, I always put my hand up and kept asking questions, and not just any question, but a question that generally came to me that I felt was to be posed, to be asked. So yeah, that's a very personal story of resilience, and just so delighted to be sharing it here, Raj.
Well, thank you. That was a really interesting story, and you can look at this in a perspective of, well, you raised your game. Then you were against the wall in front of 2,000 people. It could have knocked a lot of people down, but you stuck to your guns. You fought back. And it's hopefully made you a stronger individual. But it taught that other CEO that, you should really listen to your people on the ground.
Yeah, that's right.
And
And the message in a way, yeah, it's like, don't be like him, because if he's going to be like that to you in front of 2,000 people, what's he going to be like with other people?
exactly.
That's the sort of people in that. So that it was let's say a lesson that I certainly saw, and maybe he learned. I don't know, but whether he learned it or not, there's another matter. But I think certainly I learned a lot from that. So in a way, I'm very grateful for that little engagement,
Brilliant,
that
brilliant.
opportunity. Yeah.
And what type of individuals do you coach at the moment?
Yeah, so I coaching people who are first of all, I'm now pivoting a bit. So in terms of British Chinese, also people who are in corporate roles, who want some help, who want to get ahead in their careers. Maybe they felt they've been overlooked for promotion opportunities, or even indeed any other sort of career development. So really helping people in the corporate world to really get ahead and have some support from somebody who, he's really rooting for them, but in a way that's also helping them to be self-sufficient, be able to lead themselves.
Brilliant. And do you have a website people can get a hold of you?
Indeed, yes, absolutely. My website is Jung Personal Mastery. So Jung spelled Jung. Often people think mispronounce it as Jung. So it's jungpersonalmastery.com. People can also find me on LinkedIn, my profile there under my name. And yeah, absolutely delighted to be here, to speaking to you, Raj, today, and also to your listeners here today.
Brilliant. And how do we get a copy of your book?
Yeah, absolutely. It's available on Amazon. It's also listed on the Amazon, so as well as Amazon. It's also in Waterstones and foils as well, and it's available on some other stockists worldwide as well. I'd be delighted to be able to share my message relating to personal mastery. Thank you for your help.
Yeah, and I definitely recommend you get hold of a copy of this Personal Mastery. I'm really enjoying reading it.
Fantastic.
It's been a real pleasure to have you on the show, and do keep on changing people's lives out there. And I wish you all the very best of success, and hopefully you come back and visit us again. And for the audience, do like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
All right. Thank you, Raj. Thank you. Absolutely delighted. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.